There's no better time of year than the holidays for NBA basketball on 2K Sports. Welcome, everyone. This is Kevin Harlan courtside with Clark Kellogg and Steve Kerr. We've got a chance now for our starting lineups from point guard to center. This game should be a good one. And as we take a long look here at Kawhi Leonard, guys, what's your thought on him?
A very encouraging start to Leonard's career, Kevin. He's a tough defender, an excellent rebounder, and his offensive game expanded pretty quickly his rookie season as well.
I expect his offense to continue growing too. His huge hands help him in that regard, Steve. Great nose for the ball, high rate of steals, an expert at stripping it away. And take a look at the Pacers. Well, they come into every game with confidence, and this game is no different. Two elite teams put each other to the test, certainly, every time they meet. A lot on the line in this one, though.
Well, they know they can beat these guys because they did it the first time they got together. They played 3 times this season, so a win tonight means they've locked up the season series. Does that motivate them, Clark?
You know what, Steve? I think it will, quite honestly. Maybe not as much as if it was the last game of the season series and they needed it to win the series, but it's still something to play for that isn't there in your typical regular season game. When Hibbert came into the league, guys, everybody assumed he'd be a project, and that's been accurate. But projects can pay off, and to have a player with his size and work ethic and skill is a huge payday for the Pacers.
Now, here is George, averaging 24 points per contest. Hill with it. He's picked up by Parker. Stevenson dishes to Hibbert. That's good. And going back to Hibbert, and Clark, you mentioned this, looked at as a project when he came in, taken with the 17th pick, Steve, back in 08, in a draft that you were involved with Phoenix.
Well, we took Robin Lopez at 14 because he just had much better mobility athletically. We were shocked that Hibbert could eventually develop the kind of speed and lateral quickness that he's done. So pretty impressive that he's put all this work in and defied his critics.
Here's Parker, uses the glass to finish the layup.
I'd say that shot was well within his range.
You think so? I mean, I was pretty good from 2 feet and in myself. That's a gimme there.
Now, here is Hill. Right now averaging 11 points a game. Here's West, and there's the bucket. Staying with it on the offensive glass, getting it done. West has got his first bucket in this one. Well, it was the San Antonio Spurs winning their last game against the Warriors in Oakland.
And one way to nullify a home court advantage like they did that night, Kevin, light it up from the three-point line. Nothing is more demoralizing to a home crowd.
Steve, you're exactly right. I mean, that was the great equalizer. Their perimeter play definitely took them over the top.
Here's Hibbert following the score by Tony Parker. From deep, Stevenson. Great tee that time from Green. Indiana on D. They beat the Spurs during their last encounter in San Antonio.
And the physical nature of their last meeting was just as they had hoped for. I mean, they drew a ton of fouls in that game and went on to win it.
Now George, after the missed 3 from Green. George passes to West. Hill against Green, and out of bounds as the Spurs gain possession. Now we get a chance to check out the standings out west. Already we're in December. Taking a look at Oklahoma City. Off to a great start this season, currently in second. And, of course, San Antonio, a half game back.
When I look at San Antonio, they've continued their outstanding play. I mean, they're definitely one of those teams that everybody has in their sights again this year.
Well, you know, this is a team that doesn't have any glaring weaknesses. I mean, they're strong across the board on that roster. And I think as long as they stay solid and they stay healthy, it wouldn't surprise me if they made a strong push into the playoffs.
The Pacers have gone 3 of 7 from the field since we've gotten underway. And I want to hear your take on what Steve was just talking about, Clark. How big a role do you think foul trouble played in that win?
Yeah, it was large, humongous, I think, because of the foul trouble. That forced them to use lineups down the stretch that they weren't really comfortable with. So it was a big, big factor.
Now here's Ginobili. Right now averaging 11 points a game. Here's Bonner. Can't tie it up as that one misses. Looking at the last game for the Indiana Pacers, it was a loss to the Heat in Miami.
But, you know, they don't have anything to be ashamed about from that game. It was a good effort from them all around. They just needed another break or two that just didn't happen.
Yeah, you know, both teams can't win. You know, it comes down to a play or two either way. I thought both deserved to win, but only one could.
Here's Ginobili following the basket by George Hill, and Lance Stevenson picks up the foul. That is his first foul of the game. Johnson, he's checked in for the Pacers. Parker outside, pass to Ginobili. Shot clock at 5. From down in the low post, it goes.
Well, they just gave him 2 points. Defensively, you're going to have to tighten things up here. That's not a good sign.
Indiana's gone 0 of 2 from deep here. Here is Watson, covered by Parker. Step back shot, and misses it off the right side of the rim. San Antonio trailing here. And Bellinelli kicks to Bonner. Parker dishes to Ginobili. Tipped away. Passes to Bellinelli. To the right side. Paul George with the steal. Now 8 seconds separating the two clocks. Watson, the pass to George. Johnson outside. Johnson off the pick from Mahimi. Johnson with it. Now guarded by Bellinelli. 2 open that time. Made it look too easy. Watson's got his first bucket of the game, and he's on the board for 3. Now here's Parker. Right now averaging 17 points a game.
You see the defenders get out of his way a lot of times when he's on his way to the bucket, but not that time.
Here's Watson. He got it up in time, but it wouldn't fall for him. And that does it for the first quarter. Indiana out in front, leading by 5. Live from the AT&T Center in San Antonio, you're watching 2K Sports. Spend your... Now the second quarter getting ready to start up.
You know, Frank Vogel is one of the youngest head coaches in the NBA, and in college at Kentucky, he pestered the coaches relentlessly until they gave him a role as a student manager for the Wildcats. And that determination and resolve has served him well as he's worked himself into an outstanding head coach in the NBA.
On the court right now for the Pacers. Down low, West and Hibbert, Stevenson and George on the wings, and it's Watson in at the point.
That's a shot that he sometimes struggles with, but you can't fault him for taking it when the defense backs off like that.
From deep, Stevenson, and the shot is good. Stevenson's got the second quarter going with the first basket of the period for the Pacers. And for Vogel, an assistant for 10 years in the NBA, and when a coaching turnover moved him into the interim head coaching position in 2011, Steve, he grabbed the reins and didn't look back.
No, he didn't. The results speak for themselves. The teams responded to him. The organization has shown its faith in Coach Vogel, giving him an extension, and he led that club to a deep playoff run a year ago, 1 game from the finals.
Hill, he's checked in for C.J. Watson. And here's Hill for 3, and again, it's the Pacers from deep.
That's like a layup for him. He's just wide open out there.
Spurs trail by 11. To the middle. So he gets the whistle. Contact on the way up, and 2 shots coming up. And a chance now to check out the schedule for Indiana. Following this one, they get to host the Rockets. That'll be the first of 2 straight at home. Now let's take a moment to get your guys' take on the scoring so far for the Pacers.
Now, they didn't waste any time getting into a groove out there. They're dialed in from long range.
You know, another factor in their offense so far has been their ability to convert and score off turnovers.
Both free throws good from Bellinelli.
The Spurs have always been very mindful of resting key players during the regular season. Some of it has to do with age of their players. Some of it is regarding talent because they knew they were a playoff team most years. And you look at the research, there is something to be said for not playing guys when they're fatigued because injuries are more likely if you play tired.
And a much better quarter for them in terms of shooting the basketball.
You know, anytime your field goal percentage as a team is up in the high 50s, you're doing a lot of stuff right.
And San Antonio calls the first timeout of the game. And back to the Spurs and their strategy of resting their star players, not without some controversy. The NBA, as you may recall, fined the Spurs and Coach Popovich for sitting all their starting players for a nationally televised game back in November.
Well, it was their 4th game in 5 nights, and Pop wanted to rest some of their guys because of just the nature of their schedule. But I think the problem was he didn't give the league advance warning. In that game against Miami, when he rested those 3 players, he actually sent them home. And I think that was a little shot at the league. And that's why there was a problem, and that's why the Spurs and Popovich ended up getting fined.
And Doris Burke has a report for us from the sideline.
Well, as you know, gentlemen, Greg Popovich is one of the foremost practitioners of the intentional fouling that sends poor free throw shooters to the line. Not exactly a fan favorite, and Pop says, quote, "I think it's ugly. I think it's awful, but it's legal. It's there. If somebody doesn't want to get hacked, they should shoot free throws better." Guys, he's all about winning. Whether it's pretty or ugly, he doesn't care.
They wear you down, Doris. Thank you so much. Here's Bellinelli. He really played well in that last game against Golden State. The feed to Splitter. 2 on the clock. Kept alive. The 3rd shot of the possession finally falls for him. Quarter number 2. We're about 2 minutes in. Hill dishes to Hibbert. Hill kicks to Stevenson. And once again off the mark by Indiana. Spurs trail by 9. Here's Leonard. The lead pass was put in just the right spot. Leonard's got his first 2 points of the night.
Nice soft touch to drop that one in. Well, Kawhi Leonard taken 15th overall in the 2011 draft. And believe it or not, he's the Spurs' highest drafted rookie since they took Tim Duncan, #1 overall back in '97. It just shows you the legacy of the Spurs' success over the years.
Now Green, 11 points for him in that last game against Golden State. Uses the glass to finish the layup.
The offense really coming around here in the second.
Up above 50% shooting now for the game, guys, and they'll definitely take that. It's defense where they need to key in.
And going back to Kawhi Leonard, he earned minutes in Coach Popovich's rotation from the first game on.
And part of the reason he did, he's got great versatility defensively primarily, but he's a quick learner, quick study, understands things, doesn't take long to pick things up. And when you're a first-year player, that can separate you from a lot of guys and get you in the rotation, especially with a veteran team like the Spurs.
Here's Hill after the made shot from Green. From downtown, and George Hill good for 3. Hill's got his 3rd bucket of the night.
They're relying on their three-point shooting and getting pretty good results right now.
Yeah, in fact, 3 of the last 5 makes are from beyond the arc.
Time called here. The Spurs decide to talk it over.
He did not look too happy about some of the things he saw on the court, so I would expect some changes here.
I think it's the right move, quite honestly. I mean, they just didn't look sharp or at their best out there, so take the time out and give yourself a chance to regroup.
Let's catch up with Doris from the sideline.
I was able to listen in on what Frank Vogel had to say to his team. He told his guys that they needed to be much more patient at the offensive end. They're wasting possessions, he said, with bad shot selection. Also, he wants them building a wall around the rim defensively and forcing shots to come from the perimeter, not in the paint. So, Kevin, changes already being made on the fly here in the second quarter.
Thanks, Doris.
He is just so good from that range, guys.
You know, never mind with the height advantage he had there.
52 seconds left to play here in the second quarter. Mahinmi passes to Johnson. The dish to Hill. Hill gets a screen from Mahinmi. Just 5 on the clock. And out of bounds as the Spurs gain possession. Spurs trail by 6. Ginobili dishes to Bonner. They set the pick. Kicks it to Parker. It's stolen by Hill. Here's the break. Shot and game clock separated by 5. Good. Watson's got 5 now.
You know, something we're seeing less and less of these days, that little finger roll.
Parker outside. There's the pass to Bonner. Back to Parker. Great D that time from Watson.
There was just enough defensive pressure to get him off balance and cause that shot to go awry.
For three, Hill. That's good, and the assist goes to Watson. Hill's got the lead up to 11 now for Indiana.
Yeah, and he had to get that shot off quickly because the defense was all over him.
Yeah, that's the key, Steve. The quick trigger, any hesitation, and that shot gets blocked.
And so that brings the first half to a close. Pacers lead by 11. And now let's catch up with Doris Burke, who's standing by on the sideline. Doris?
Coach, you're going to have to climb a bit of a hill here in the second half. What are you telling your guys they need to do to turn this thing around?
I think we just moved the ball a little bit. We were just on the dribble a little bit too much, and they've got a lot of pressure out there, so the ball's got to move.
Coach, thanks for the time. Gentlemen, back to you at the table.
All right, Doris, thank you. And folks, make sure to stay tuned in for halftime, and we'll be back right after that.
Now, presented by Sprint.
Welcome to 2K Sports. The games are starting to take on a little more meaning as the season gets into full swing. Indiana with the lead against the Spurs at AT&T Center. A powerhouse team looking to retain their position atop the conference standings. We've seen George Hill in top form. At the break, 11 points and has been on the mark from deep so far. And for the Spurs, they're still gutting it out. Hard to find a lot to like about their performance so far. They'll need to pay much better attention in the second half to the details. The details. Some nice plays so far from Tony Parker. They've also been getting some great work from Kawhi Leonard. Real scores, real stats from the real NBA. Chris Paul picked up the
Sprint Halftime Report, presented by Sprint.
And as we begin the second half, first half wasn't even close, guys, and we'll see if there is a comeback on our hands or more of the same as we get the third quarter started.
Some really terrific numbers for Hill. He has 11 points, and he sprayed home 3 3-pointers as well.
Yeah, productive day for him from long range.
Spurs trail by 11.
It was certainly a slow start to the season for the Pacers. Their veteran and leading scorer, Danny Granger, was on the shelf with a knee injury, but somehow this team found its identity around defense and the emergence of some younger players that may serve them well going forward. You get Danny Granger back with the young, emerging talent, this team should contend for a while.
Down low, it's Duncan and Splitter. Green teams with Leonard on the wings, and it's Parker in at the point. So that's who Greg Popovich starts the second half with. Pass to West. Goes up on the wing. 5 on the clock. Nice D from Duncan. And Granger was able to come back for them for a stretch during the regular season, but eventually had to once again miss the rest of the games. But the team had grown to where, that probably didn't derail them as it might have, Steve, in the past.
Well, the big thing with the Pacers, Kevin, is that they have a lot of depth now across the roster. And with the emergence of Paul George, who kind of took Granger's spot, they were able to move on pretty well without him.
Let's check out what Doris Burke has for us.
Spurs coach Greg Popovich throughout his career has seemed to strike a good balance between getting along with his players but also being demanding. Pop said, quote, "I'd say the guy I've been toughest on, and he's come through it all, is Tony Parker. He's listened to me and believed in what I told him even when he was angry with me. He trusted me, and I'll always appreciate that." And Kevin, it's a partnership that's yielded a lot of success over the years.
They've become a terrific tandem. Thanks, Doris. Leonard against George. West kicks to George. Beyond the arc. The shot's good on the assist by West. 6 points for Paul George.
They're going back to the three-point shot over and over and over.
That was the 9th straight point from behind the arc, Clark. It feels like they're finding the holes in this defense.
San Antonio calls timeout. And during the timeout, both coaches getting a chance here to review the strategy at this point of the game along with the discussions. Also some rehydration going on with Gatorade. Everyone trying to bring their top game here tonight.
Yeah, that's why you see the trainers going around to every player, making sure they're hydrated, they're getting enough to drink during the game. And so important to hydrate yourself and keep yourself strong and ready to play for these big minutes down the stretch.
Boy, this is a neat story, guys. Danny Green was undrafted out of North Carolina, and another nice find for perhaps the best organization in all of sports, the San Antonio Spurs. He's an excellent three-point shooter, over 40% from three-point range for his career. He helps that team spread the floor, and that energizes their high-powered offense.
Doris Burke has some information for us. Doris?
Hey, Kevin, during that last break, I heard Frank Vogel addressing his team. He wants his guys to devote a lot more energy to clamping down on the inside and preventing any shots from close range. Better interior defense was his message. He also told them to get tough. He said, let's make this one a very physical game. Perhaps the rest of the second half will look different after those adjustments, Kevin.
Great. Thanks for the report, Doris. And Green, nice versatility, too. Not just an outside shooter.
No, he's an excellent defensive player. In fact, Greg Popovich calls upon him to often guard the opponent's best wing player. So for Green, a two-way player, a guy who can get it done at both ends of the floor.
Parker drives in. They kick it out to Green. Feeds to Duncan. Count that one, and the Indiana lead has been cut down now to just 11 on the basket from Green.
Pretty much all of their buckets coming from inside the paint now.
Yeah, that's 5 of their last 6 baskets inside the lane. They have really established themselves inside.
Hibbert gets the bucket.
And assists like that have typified their effort today. Great ball movement.
Really an example of the difference in how these teams have operated offensively. Much more individual play at the other end.
Their low post defense has to show some improvement, guys.
Yeah, of the last 10 points, Steve, 8 have come from in tight.
Hill kicks to Stevenson. Indiana moving the ball around. Here's Hibbert, and it's going to be out of bounds. The Spurs will take it. So an entirely new group in now for Indiana. Mahimi's checked in for Hibbert. Scola comes in for David West. Orlando Johnson's checked in for Lance Stevenson. And it's Watson in for Hill. Spurs trail by 11. Bellinelli passes to Bonner. A beautiful reverse layup. Bonner's got his second bucket of the night.
That makes it 10 of their last 12 points coming from inside the painted area.
Yep, that's something that the defense has to put a stop to. Maybe a defensive adjustment is necessary here.
Dishes it to Watson. Watson gets a screen from Mahimi. Blocked. And Bellinelli kicks to Bonner. He dishes it to Bellinelli. It's stolen. And here's Watson. And so he earns a trip to the line. Officials saw the contact, and he'll shoot 2.
Way to play in attack mode and get inside.
And, you know, if you're on defense and you're going to foul, make sure it's a good one. They did, preventing the and one.
He's perfect from the line this time. Well, through 3/4 of play, down double digits, it may be difficult to overcome. Pacers out in front. They lead by 11. We've got more NBA basketball coming your way in just a minute.
Spend your Christmas day.
And let's quickly have a look at the State Farm assist of the game, which came, Steve, from kind of an unlikely source here.
Yes, the big fella here doing his best impression of a point guard, serving up a brilliant feed here. That's gorgeous.
Pacers leading by 11 on the court for Indiana. Scola out there with Mahimi. Then it's Watson. Then it's Johnson. And it's George in at the 3 spot.
Well, Jan Mahimi wasn't a big name when he became a free agent a few years back. But, you know, the Indiana Pacers saw enough in him that they were willing to offer up to a 4-year deal for Jan to be the backup center.
And kind of an interesting trade for the Pacers for Mahimi. You know, you could have signed him outright, but chose to trade Darren Collison to Dallas. in that sign and trade with the Mavs. He was an important player for the Pacers, as we saw backing up Hibbert.
He was good, but, you know, it would have been nice for them to keep Collison and sign Mahinmi. I thought they needed some depth at the point guard spot, particularly in that playoff run.
It's Ginobili with the drive. Parker dishes to Diaw. Back to Parker. Shot clock at 6. The Pacers pull it in.
Great defense in the paint there, making it tough on the offense.
That's what he brings, a presence. I mean, you saw it on that miss.
Here is Watson. He's guarded by Bonner. Watson's shot is off. Spurs trail by 13. Parker's shot is off.
Well, he hasn't had much success shooting the ball, but it's not too late for him to get it turned around and start contributing.
Tries to keep it alive. And here comes Bellinelli leading the fast break. He kicks it to Parker. The rebound by Johnson. Pacers leading by 13. Johnson right side. Scola passes to George. 5 to shoot. From deep. San Antonio with the rebound. Bonner's got his 3rd rebound tonight. Takes a 3. And there's George. That's good on the assist from Mahinmi. 9 points here for George.
Boy, they've come out of halftime just smoking hot from behind the arc.
Hey, trust me on this one, partner. They are going to continue to let them fly.
San Antonio calls timeout.
And as you might expect for the team with the 2nd-best record in the West, the Spurs dominated the East last season, played each team twice for a total of 30 games, and went 25-5 in that stretch.
And let's get this update now from Doris Burke, who's across the way on the sideline.
Thanks, guys. I was able to hear Greg Popovich coaching his team during that last break. He said, now's the time to open things up. Let's start firing away and get that defense on the ropes. Likely the final major changes to their game plan as they try to make a late comeback here in the 4th. Kevin, back to you.
And thanks for that story, Doris. And Clark, back to what you said about the Spurs and the East. It was far and away the best record against the conference, Steve, for a team in the West.
Yeah, the 2nd-best record was Memphis with 22 wins. So kind of scary to think that they rested their big stars a few times against teams in the East, and they were still able to put up that kind of a record.
He feeds it to Hibbert. And we're about 3 minutes into the 4th quarter. Parker against Hill. Leonard kicks to Parker. 6 on the shot clock. From 12 feet out. But they get it back. And the call will be against George Hill. That's foul number 2 for him. On defense, Indiana. Green with the ball. Off target from outside. Well, if you're just tuning in, welcome. We've got about 3.5 minutes gone here in the 4th quarter. Stevenson dishes to Hibbert. Cannot hit. Duncan with some nice D. Spurs trail by 14. Green with the ball. West picks him up, and he trains the 3. Good-looking shot there from Green.
You know, he's knocking down his shots today, but it hasn't really translated to the scoreboard yet.
And it's Hill penetrating. It's picked off. West against Parker. Passes it to Splitter. And that'll be San Antonio as it goes out of bounds. Spurs retain possession.
Difficult to explain that turnover. I mean, I guess he thought he had more room than he did, but he really lost his place on the court.
Spurs passing it around. West with the block. And he's able to get it back. Duncan with the bucket.
Easy little jump shot for him right there, guys.
Pacers have gone 1 of 4 since the end of the 3rd quarter. The drive by Hill. West gets the bucket.
Boy, you relish these sorts of road games where You come in and you get the job done.
In a long schedule with the kinds of pressure of travel and tough opponents throughout the season, it's always good when you play a game like they have here.
Stevenson with it. Now Green defending. Stevenson passes to Hill. Pass to West. 6 to shoot. Unloads. And again, it's Indiana converting.
And they're not finished yet. They're going to make sure about this win.
Yeah, that's how you close out a game, Steve.
Parker kicks to Duncan. Tried to bank it in, but he misses.
Awesome defense. I mean, he'll hit those unless you're right in his grill.
Now here's Stevenson. Fires the 3 and the miss. So no problem for Indiana as they get the win. You know, Clark, every team has a